All right, let's hit the speed bag here on Making the Rounds. Brian Campbell alongside Mike Perez and Bryant Jennings are the undercard of Golovkin-Gale. What door opens, Brian, for the winner of this heavyweight matchup?
Well, specifically, Jim, this is an eliminator. The winner would get a mandatory shot at a title, which is a big deal here. But I think, even more importantly than that, maybe is a chance to really distinguish themselves as maybe who's next in the heavyweight division. Maybe a guy who's legit. Because look, at times in the past few years, you see guys wait around, maybe get that Klitschko payday, maybe win the lottery in that sense. These guys, two unbeaten guys, are saying, no, let's climb the ladder the old-fashioned way. Let's see who's best. Big opportunity to make a name for themselves.
Let's stay with the big fellas. This Saturday's heavyweight rematch between Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora has been postponed due to Chisora fracturing his left hand. ESPN boxing insider Dan Raphael, what is the latest on this?
Well, like you said, they were supposed to fight Saturday in a big fight. This was to determine a mandatory challenger for Vladimir Klitschko, a very big fight in the heavyweight division. And what's unfortunate about it is that not only does it happen a week before the fight, so you have a lot of people who bought tickets, and they had just announced an American television deal a couple days ago. That's off the boards. You have to feel bad for Tyson Fury. He's been through this before. Last year, he had two times fights against David Haye postponed because of David Haye's injuries, and he ended up moving in the direction to fight Chisora because Haye was on the shelf. He fought in February to set this fight up, and here we are. He's put in another full training camp, and the fight's been postponed. So Frank Warren, who's the promoter of the event, is going to talk to Chisora and the doctor and see when he'll be okay, and they'll have to reschedule. But I have to say, it's probably going to be a number of months until they reschedule. Well, you have to feel bad not only for Fury, but also for Chisora. To go through the training camp, to get amped up for this big fight. They've been talking so much smack. They're going to have a lot more time to do that because the fight's going to be off for a while.
Guillermo Rigondeaux, Brian. He finally provided the performance the masses have been searching for with a little help from a headbutt. He turned in a first-round knockout. What does this mean, though, for the native of Cuba?
It might not mean much, Jim, if he doesn't get himself into a better spot promotionally, because look, as we know, this was his last fight under his top-ranked contract. He was buried essentially. This fight, aired off of American English television, but he came through with the victory, came through with the impressive one. I talked to his manager, Gary Hyde, this week, and they're really looking at 3 promoters that they narrowed down to, 2 on the American side, 1 in Europe. He'd like to have a deal in the next 7 to 10 days and like to get Rigondeaux back in a fight by September. So this is a real key, situation for him, a top-rated pound-for-pound fighter, but a guy who is an acquired taste for so many. Can he get himself back onto an American network and be a featured fighter? It's, the jury's still out.
He was put on the back burner by HBO, that's for sure. Dan, as you reported here on ESPN.com, on the heels of his decisive loss to Miguel Cotto, Sergio Martinez is not ready to hang up the gloves. What's next for the former middleweight champ?
Well, he said he's going to continue. It's not a 5-year plan or anything like that. They're going to go back into a fight, see what he has left. The plan is that sometime near the end of this year, perhaps in the early part of next year, to give him a fight against not a total tomato can, but also not against King Kong, as Lou DiBella, his promoter, said, to match him up with a guy that can provide a test both to see how he is physically, mentally, and see if he still has it left. So, maybe a top 15 kind of guy. He has 1 fight left on his HBO contract, and they'll put him in the ring. If he does okay in the fight, he comes through healthy, his knee is okay, then they'll look to get him another shot at one of the world title belts. The main thing is before the fight takes place, whoever he may fight, he'll undergo a full physical, mainly to make sure that everything is okay with his knee, and we'll move on from there.
That next opponent has to be somewhere between a tomato can and King Kong. That's what we know. Tweet your questions to @ESPN Boxing or @VCampbellESPN, as always using hashtag ESPN Rounds, and we will provide the answers. Welterweights Roberto Garcia and Brytus Prescott headline Friday night fights at 9 Eastern on ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, and Watch ESPN. That is all our time. My thanks to Dan Raphael and Brian Campbell. I'm Jim Baswell. As always, we are making the rounds right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com.